Hi, I'm Greg Olear here to tell you about my new book, which is called Rough Beast: Who Donald Trump Really Is, What He'll Do If Reelected, and Why Democracy Must Prevail. I'm going to tell you all about the book in a second. First, a little bit about me. I'm a writer. What do I write? I write all the things. I've written a bunch of novels, I've written nonfiction books. Including one called Dirty Rubles, an introduction to Trump Russia, that came out in 2018, also in May, so 6 months before that midterm election. I am a columnist. I have a Substack called Prevail, which I update 3 times a week. I've been doing that since November of 2019. I've written a lot about all people in the MAGA universe: Trump, Putin, Giuliani, Kushner, Leonard Leo, especially. Lots and lots of stuff in the archives there. I have a podcast called Prevail with Greg Olear on the MSW network. You can go and subscribe to that if you want to see what I'm all about. And I am the co-host of the 5-8 with my friend Stephanie Koff, aka Lincoln's Bible. So the new book, like I said, it's called Rough Beast. Why did I write this book now? Like I said, I've been writing these columns since November of 2019, so it's a really long time. And what I decided to do is, the problem with writing a column is that it's sort of disposable. It goes out in the world and people read it and then they sort of forget about it, including me. I forget about the columns that I write half the time. Sometimes they have a second life on Twitter. Of course, since Elon Musk bought Twitter, I've been basically, throttled in that, in the algorithm there. So people don't read my stuff or see it as much as they used to. But I decided that, I have to make a coherent case, okay, because there's people that are not as well versed in all this stuff as I am and my friends are. And the people who watch the show, listen to the podcast are. There's people out there that just, they don't pay attention to politics, which is fine. I have no judgment. They don't pay attention to politics. They don't like politics. Maybe they think they're an independent. Maybe they think that, there's no difference between the two political parties. Maybe they're mad at Biden right now for what's going on in Gaza, and they're not going to vote for him because of that. So this is a book for them, for all of those people, mainly. It's a way of making the argument that this guy is awful, and if we vote for him, he's going to do really, really awful dictatorial things that will change the country. It'll change the way the country is, and we have to not have that happen. So, just a little bit about the book itself. It's 10 chapters. It's 190 pages, but some of it is it's really 150 pages because the last part of it is sources and stuff like that. So the first 4 chapters of the book, I delve into who Trump is as a person. So who is he as a person? Well, first of all, he's a liar. He is a serial liar. He lies all the time about everything. And I make that case pretty plain in chapter 1. Chapter 2, I talk about his ties to organized crime and to the Kremlin, which are longstanding. He comes from a mob family. He's second generation mobbed up. There's lots and lots of reporting about this. So I talk about all of that. I talk about how the KGB cultivated him in the 80s and how he made his money, basically turning Trump Tower into Moscow on Fifth Avenue. That's the second chapter. The third chapter, I talk about the pardons, because I don't think people realize who he pardoned when he was president on the way out the door. And who he pardoned were his buddies, his cronies, his accomplices, and just scummy people that don't deserve pardons. And it was really a disgusting abuse of power. And I want people to know about that. There's also alleged that Rudy Giuliani, who at the time was Trump's personal attorney, was tasked with going around and selling these pardons for $2 million a pop, which we don't know if that's true or not, but we know that Giuliani was heard saying it. So I make that argument in chapter 3. Chapter 4, I talk about the actual presidency, which was, awful. Right now, what he's trying to do is make it seem like everything he did was fine and everything was great and better 4 years ago. And it's like 4 years ago, we were hoarding toilet paper, man. It wasn't better 4 years ago. So I talk about the pandemic and his response to the pandemic and Kushner's response to the pandemic, which basically cost us a lot of American lives. And I talk about the insurrection, which is a terrible thing. So that's the first 4 chapters. And 3 chapters after that, I talk about what he's going to do if he is reelected. He wants to be a dictator. That's what he wants to be. That's what he said he wants to be. And he's not walked that back. Even when Sean Hannity asked him about it, he hasn't denied it. There's something called Project 2025, which is a project put together by the Heritage Foundation. They've published a huge book, 900 some odd pages long, called Mandate for Leadership, in which they lay out in perfectly lucid detail everything that they're planning to do once they take over. So basically anything that anybody remotely progressive would not want is something they want to do. They want to starve the government. They want to fire, 500,000 or 50,000 civil service workers to make sure that the agencies that they work for stop operating. They want to criminalize abortion in all 50 states. They want to roll back rights for LGBTQ and lots of other horrible things besides. This is not me being Chicken Little. There's lots of reporting on this from their side. They've said that this is what they're going to do. And I think most people don't realize that because it's not being covered adequately in the media, who just are focused on the horse race and the stupid poll numbers. So I talk about that in the next three chapters. And then the last three chapters rather. First, I read about the Republican Party and how it is no longer, the old Republican Party. It's a different Republican Party. It's now the MAGA Party. It's been taken over by Donald Trump. It's his party now, and everybody in that party has to, pay homage to him. He's taken over the RNC. He's installed Laura Trump, his daughter-in-law, at the RNC. Most of the funds coming into that organization are being used to fund his legal bills, which is, people don't know that, but they need to know that. So, the GOP of Reagan, of Eisenhower, of even of W. Bush, it's just gone. It's just dead and buried. It's been co-opted, by this guy. And that's just how it is. So if you think that you're a Republican and you always voted for Republicans, you're not voting for a Republican. You're voting for a would-be dictator. And I think people need to know that. And then I talk about the myth of third parties and, why people vote for third parties, the psychology of it. But the reality is, if you're voting for a third party, you're voting in effect for the candidate, one of the two major candidates that you like least. That's what happens when you vote third party. So please don't do that. Then the last chapter is just a summary of, his whole life, basically. So again, it's Rough Beast. It's available on Amazon. It's going to be available at Ingram Spark, which means if you call your local bookstore and order it, they can order it and have it stocked in the bookstore. Bookstore is not going to have it unless you do that. So please, if you're interested in doing that and supporting your local bookstore instead of Amazon, which I recommend, that's how you do it. You just go in and order it, tell them how to do it, and they'll do it. The ebook is out, the week of the 19th, May 19th. That week, the ebook will be out, and the audiobook is coming. So that's what I have to say. And I want to thank everybody for your support and remind everybody, because I know sometimes it doesn't feel this way, but we're going to vote this guy out. We're going to vote for Biden. We're going to get rid of Trump, and we shall prevail.